Hi guys. In this video, I just want to emphasize more about the structures of the valves. Remember that we talked about the function of the valves already, and we talked generally about how do they work based on the blood circulation. But in this video, I just want to help you remember the cusps of these valves. So for the tricuspid valve and the bicuspid, which are the atrioventricular valves, and also for the pulmonary and the aortic, remember that for all of them we have right and left cusps. So we have cusp right and left for the tricuspid valve, and we have right and left for the mitral valve, and then we have the same thing for the pulmonary and the aortic. But what about the tricuspid valve? Because we have three of them, so the extra one is going to be the septal valve. And what about the pulmonary and the aortic? So the pulmonary and the aortic, yes, they have right and left. Yes, they have right and left. But remember that the extra one will be the opposite. For the aortic, aorta starts with an A letter. So the extra one will be posterior. For the pulmonary, it starts with P letter. So the extra is going to be anterior. So for the pulmonary, we have right and left cusps. The extra one will be anterior. For the aortic, we have right and left cusps. The extra is going to be posterior. All right? So this is the pulmonary and this is the aortic. And remember that the coronary arteries takes origin from the right and left aortic sinuses. So that is also another clue that this is the aorta and the pulmonary trunk is anteriorly. So remember that the pulmonary trunk is anterior and this is the aortic opening. Okay, we have right and left sinuses and they get the blood to the coronary arteries opposite to the rest of the body. Remember that during the systole, when your heart contracts, the body sends blood to the heart sends blood to all of your body except for the heart itself. It gets the blood during diastole, sorry. So again, the whole body gets the blood during contraction of the heart, which is the systole, except your heart itself. It gets its blood during relaxation, dilatation, which is the diastole. How does that happen? Remember that when your heart relaxes, because we need to get the flow of the blood from the atria to the ventricles, everything goes down, and with the backflow of some amount of blood in the pulmonary trunk and the aorta, I will start to fill those cups, and with the weight of the blood, the cusps are going to close. And during that process, the blood will start to accumulate here, and then in the same phase, which is the diastole, the coronary arteries are going to be filled with blood, and your heart will start to get the blood. All right? So make sure to know that concept. Another thing I want you guys to know, it's basically the structure of the atrioventricular valves. So remember that. How do they work? So now we've talked about how the pulmonary and the aortic valves work. They work with the backflow of some amount of blood, they fill them, and then they close with the weight of the blood. But when it comes to the atrioventricular, it's very simple and easy because the ventricles contract during the systole. So when they contract, they are going to pull the cusps themselves. How does that happen? The muscle that contracts with its attachment to the muscular wall of the ventricle is what we call the papillary muscle. Why do we call it papillary? Because it's basically formed by a projection of the muscular layers of the ventricle. So papilla means a projection. So these are papillary muscles. Okay, so you guys know that for any muscle, in order to work, it needs to get attached to the structure that I want to work on by tendons. So what do you think the name of that tendon would be? It would be the corda tendini. Why? Tendini, it's a tendon in Latin. Corda, because it's cord-like structure. It looks like a cord. Okay, so this is the structure. And why do we have it this way? Because when the ventricles contract, these muscles will contract. they will pull the chorda tendineae, and then they will pull the cusps to close off between the atria and ventricle so that the blood does not go back to the atria when we contract the ventricles. They only have one way to go out, which is if it's coming from the right ventricle, it goes to the lungs through the pulmonary trunk, and if it's coming from the left ventricle, it goes to the body through the aorta. So these are the final concepts that we need to know about the valves. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you in the next concept.